two recorders. So, okay. It is now recording. Anytime you're ready, go for it.
This is Steven Seidel from the Seidel Agency, and you're listening to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, reminding you to stop playing so small. What are you so scared for? Just go out and do it.
I like that. Yes. There you go. Play big. All right.
Play big.
Let me hit stop. I'll be right back.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Diane Kahn, thank you so much for being in Vroom Vroom Veer, and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great, Jeff. Thank you for having me today. And I need to start out by saying, by having me here, you're also hearing voices from millions of people in prison around the world. So because of that, I thank you.
And thank you. I mean, these are voices that need to be heard. So I want to get into those stories for sure. So let's talk a little bit about the website, humansofsanquentin.org, and what you're most excited about in that permanent full-time gig you've got going on there now.
Oh my gosh, there's so much happening, but I think it's important to say that half of our team works inside San Quentin, so they're currently incarcerated.
Right.
And I can attribute a lot of that site to the ideas that they've brought to the table and put into fruition. So like our art, for example, a friend of mine, Bruce Fowler, was recently released. He's our art director and really got beautiful pictures and has introduced us to a wonderful group of people inside. Same with poetry. We have Alex is our poetry director, and he first came to us with a story which was not really easy to read. And he kept pushing me. He's like, Diane, do poetry. I'm like, gosh, Alex, I'm a teacher, but poetry's hard for me. So I'm like, go for it. Okay, send it to me. So he sent it to us, and all of a sudden, Alex's voice, he could sing like a bird.
Wow.
So because of him, and I truly believe if you look on that part of our site, you really get to see the humanity that's living there and the living conditions and the trauma. It's a really, really touching part of our site. So I like to attribute that to the people that are inside.
Yeah. And like, I know I did briefly look at the about page, and there was a guy named Juan. Mm-hmm. And I think Juan is still inside, right? And he's a journalist inside.
Yes. In fact, I just saw him last Thursday and Friday. San Quentin had their second ever film festival inside a prison.
Wow. Wow.
So I was seeing him there. But yes, I was teaching at the time when I met him inside guys to get their high school diploma, their GED.
Right.
And was also following an online platform called Humans of New York. Are you familiar with that?
I have heard of Humans of New York. Yes. Yeah. So a long time ago, though. They've been around a while. Yeah. Amazing, though. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, Brandon Statton's wonderful. So for those people that haven't, Brandon Statton back in 2010 was unemployed, lived in New York City, literally took his camera off the shelf, dusted it off, went downstairs extemporaneously, take pictures of people, and would interview them right then and there. Now he's got, last I checked, he had 11.5 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
Which happens to ironically be how many people are incarcerated in the U.S.
Wow.
Or not the U.S., but around the world.
In the world. Wow.
Yeah. So I'd love to get some eyes on them.
Say that number again. How many? 1.5 million? Is that what you said?
11.5 million people.
11.5 million
around the world.
Wow. That's insane.
Startling, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I just emulated his idea.
Right.
And for me, the name came naturally, Humans of San Quentin. I went to Juan, and he says, Diane, I've been a journalist my whole life, and I've always wanted to share the men's story in blue, and I've never had the opportunity. So, yes, took off from there.
Wow. That's amazing. So how did you end up teaching? So you're a teacher, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So, but what is the strange and odd and a story a little bit in the weeds of how you ended up doing that, because that's like how it began. How did that come to be?
Yeah, I felt really fortunate when that happened. So, you're a product of going to high school in the 80s like I was.
Yes.
And remember that movie Silence of the Lambs?
Vaguely, yes.
Yeah, so there's this one point
Yeah.
where Jodie Foster goes downstairs and Hannibal Lecter is in prison and he just psychologically just
Messing with her,
completely
manipulating her, right?
exactly.
Yes. Getting her
And
to do his bidding, basically. Yes. The
exactly.
whole movie.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's all I've always been intrigued by that. And so I go on to be a teacher. I have 4 kids. We live here in Marin County, not too far from San Quentin. I would drive by there with the kids and say, that's where the bad guys are locked up. To me, it served its purpose. I really fell into the narrative of what our society and mainstream media has given us.
Right.
So I had gotten my teaching credential and my master's at the University of San Francisco and found out that they had a presence inside San Quentin and were looking for teachers.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I just signed up online, went in, and instantly fell in love with it. So I glass ceilings were basically broken for me as I'm talking to these people that are the same as you and I talking today.
Sure. They're
And
humans, right?
yeah.
Right. And a lot of times
and
they
I
just
think
made a mistake when they were very young, right? Yeah.
And I was still stuck at that point in the train of thought that, oh my gosh, they're going to be manipulative or they're going to say they're innocent.
That's
very,
not to
very,
say like there aren't career criminals, but they're probably like the lower percentage. Like
Right.
Right.
Oh.
That's interesting. I would like to see that statistic because you're close. You probably have an idea of like the guys you just aren't going to be able to connect with. That's a smaller number, right? Than
I think
most
it's
folks.
like
Right.
less than 1%.
Yeah. That's amazing, really. Right.
Which is what the media sensationalizes that 1%, which
Right.
is about, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a product of that.
And even
So-
those folks, like, yeah, okay, probably a little bit hard to connect with, probably like, gonna come back, right? Like they're like just dedicated, like, have you ever watched that show, Shameless?
No, but I've heard of it.
Yeah. So I would say like the father of that family, is dedicated, right? He's dedicated to, I don't know. He's probably been in jail, but he's just committed to being him. And he is, almost a criminal that he's a criminal that hasn't gotten caught. He would rather like staple his hand with a staple gun in a job to get like disability than to actually work a job. Right. He's dedicated, and it's hard to move that. Right. Like there's a difference, I think, and you get that, I think. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I understand. All right. So most of the folks that are incarcerated are just like you and me, is what you learned. Right.
And just their honesty and their vulnerability and their truth, for me, felt like an injustice not to share it with the world.
Sure. Wow. So you spend 7 years and you're helping these folks get their GEDs, right? And that's, you're there and you're already like engaging and, doing homework and doing what you're doing. So you get like, in 7 years, you kind of like get to know everybody, right? You kind of like get the feel of what it's like for these folks. Like, what is it like that people would mostly be surprised about?
So we take a lot of people inside. We have a lot of interns that work for us that are in high school. We have about 30 each semester as well.
That's
as
great. Yeah.
a big cohort in the summer too.
Right. And it's not like an ordinary kind of like 15-minute visit. You get to spend some time in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's hours. You're spending
Okay, great.
hours.
Yeah, like a half a day or like a work shift or something.
Yeah, and then I also have a good rapport, and we have our inside team, so they get to spend a lot of hours with people they've maybe already talked to on the phone or conversed with via mail. And the number one thing I think that everybody walks away with that is startling to them is just the normalcy. It breaks down all those walls as to what they thought. And this just happened to be again on Friday when I walked out with a friend of mine who's defense attorney, and she was in for the film festival with me. And we walk out, and she and I look at each other. And when you walk out of those gates after spending time in there, there's this exhilarance, but then there's also
A sadness. How would yeah.
exactly. It's like you left your friends inside. Like, why are they in there?
Right. We get to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, and not to belittle the fact that some people seriously need to be taken out of the general population, right?
Yes.
But their sentences are just too long, and there's not given proper rehabilitation.
Right.
So that's the part that really hurts you when you see people that have done that.
Right.
And you also see, you look at the statistics, 90% of the people in our prisons are going to walk out. Why aren't they having the ability to have work release, or like they do in Norway? I've talked with a governess of a women's prison there. They're, after they're in for a little bit, they get taken to a local town in city center and left for a couple hours, no guards. If they have kids, they're able to earn weekends away. They're able to earn 3 weeks away a year. But what's nice about that is you are then put back into those environments where you're re-triggered. And then you're able to come back to a place that's safe for everybody, and you're able to work on that trauma in hopes that you don't repeat it. We don't offer that here.
Right. Yeah. And I would imagine, just off the top of my head, it seems like there's a couple of things that psychologically, would be, I know, like, I can't stop doing this because every time I think about talking to you, I'm seeing images of Shawshank Redemption in my head, right? And I got the feeling that, like, once you're there for a while, and one of those very, life sentences or, close to life sentences, you kind of get into a rhythm. You've got friends, you've got things to do, you've got a job, you've got like work to do, you've got leisure activities to do, right? And you're building, like, when I think of Andy, right, I think, oh yeah, there's a billion things I could help people with. Right. That would be my defense mechanism. If I ever found myself in jail, I'd be like, I'm really good at computers. I can type really fast. How can I help everybody? Right. It's just not because that out of the goodness of my heart, just so I don't get beat up.
Exactly.
Right. But what I was thinking is, if you never let these folks out and smell the air and get a little taste of freedom, right, it seems like it would incentivize them to really want to work towards that as a goal more, right? Instead of if they stay in all the time, it's almost like it's such a shock when they get out. They don't know how to handle it anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think the hope already there, it's already there, it already exists. But you find many, and we had this guy just come to our meeting last Wednesday, and he had written us a letter that I'm hoping that he'll call and record for us so we can share it. But he talks about being so far removed, and he's maybe a little bit older than you and I, that he doesn't think he'll be a service to us anymore, because
right. He doesn't have anything to offer anymore. Right.
Yeah, what does a 60-year-old get out and do without having money, or you basically have a felon on your
you can't get a job
record in the last 25 years. You have no legitimate work experience. I mean, you can do lots in prison, but are people necessarily going to look at that? Right.
Yeah, there's so many things to think about, right? About as a society, about how we deal with this. Like, okay, yeah, I understand that nobody wants to hire a felon. I get that. But what do they do? Right? You have to have a plan B, and there is no plan B, right? I don't even get what it is. I don't know what it's supposed to be. We could talk about that too, but I know it's not great. I had a friend who went to jail for, I want to say 2.5 years for like hacking, but it was a federal charge, right? And when you have a federal charge, there's no such thing as parole. That was a thing I learned, right? It's hard time. You have to do all of it's not hard time. That's different, but you don't get parole necessarily. Right.
Yeah.
And so and then forget trying to get a job. he went like a long time before he could find anybody that would hire him. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do we expect them to do? They're not independently wealthy, right? So it's an interesting conundrum that we create ourselves, right?
Yeah.
With our laws.
Yeah. It's the root of, I mean, people always talk about how do we make our streets safe? Well, if you give somebody, give them out, let them out and give them a record, you're basically giving them a record. And they also don't have the means like you're talking about.
Right.
What do you expect them to do? And you don't give them housing.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people that write to us from the middle of the United States who choose to be in there because they have nowhere to go.
Sure.
That's our problem.
Yeah.
That is our problem.
Right.
Humans of San Quentin is trying to help that problem. Jeff and Diane need to help that problem.
I concur. I want to help with that problem because it's silly. I mean, well, it is what it is. It's like, I understand why it is that way, because from a certain perspective, it makes, I don't know if it makes sense, but it's just, we've been doing it for so long. It's like, how do we change the momentum? Right. Mm-hmm. And I think the beginning is talking about it. Right. Yes,
exactly. That's my point too. If you're hearing this today, if you're, have any impacted by incarceration at all, let it out. Tell people who's really in there. Talk about the problems. And I look at that as planting seeds of change. You and I are doing that today.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about some of the stories, and this can take any form you like, but like, I would say, like, start from the beginning and like little things and impactful stories that like woke you up in small incremental stages.
Oh my gosh, I learn every day. We get
right.
A lot
I get
it. A person I often think of is Freddie Lopez. He had written to us and comes into one of our Wednesday meetings inside San Quentin and says, "I'm just here because I need to thank you." And he says, "I have a thank you note that I'd like to read." Well, Freddie's story is that he goes into prison and he'd been married with children and his whole face and body is covered in tattoos. So he had a really difficult time on the streets. He would get pulled over for no reason. He wouldn't be let into restaurants. Things would be blamed on him. So he gets his prison sentence and he goes in and he kind of exhales. He's like, okay, I'm not going to get this anymore, right? I'm going to be around maybe my people or people that understand and won't be judgmental. And he'd had quite a bit of work in the restaurant business and goes and applies for the cafeteria. So he's talking to the woman who runs it and he applies and she immediately denies him. And he's like, well, what are you talking about? I've got a letter of recommendation. I've got quite a bit of work history. Can I just get my feet in and show you what good job I can do? And she says, no. She's like, you look like you're going to be trouble. I can't afford to bring that into my kitchen. So he's obviously defeated, eventually ends up earning her trust. She ends up giving him a job and he comes to her or she comes to him and says, Freddie, I really have to apologize to you. You're one of the best workers I've ever had. So he sees one of our flyers on the wall in San Quentin and decides to write a story down. And he realizes the second he took pen to paper in his cell and starts writing about his experience of having tattoos, how much it had controlled his life and how much anger he had. He said for the first time in his life, he was able to actually feel and express and get that chip off his shoulder. We're all in tears in our meeting on Wednesday. And it's miraculous when you give people the opportunity to really express who they are and share their story.
Yeah, and ask them why, why, right? Yeah. I did that, like a similar scenario where I didn't know this story about baggy pants and no belts and things like that. If you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You do. See?
Yeah.
Well, there's more to it than just that, right?
Oh, then no, I don't.
Well, I don't know all the ins and outs, but it has to do with a certain population of men trying to say, screw you, man. Right? It's similar to body tattoos and face tattoos. It's like flipping off the authority, right? And once I heard that, I was like, oh, okay. So this is like an unstated FU, which I'm kind of liking that. But
Yeah.
I also want to say there's other ways to do that, right? But once I understood it, I stepped back and stopped like judging those folks. Like the only reason I said, geez, I would never wear baggy pants and no belt is because it was just, I've done that before when I've lost weight, and it's just, I don't want my pants there. It's not comfortable. I didn't get that there was a story, if you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was other things going on there, right? Yeah. So those are the sorts of things that you're learning, right? Yeah. Wow. So to him, what was he trying to express with the tattoos?
I haven't asked him, but I can.
Yeah. Yeah, Freddie. Yeah, because I know, like when you and I were kids, tattoos meant something like I'm gonna be bad, or I'm gonna be badass, or I'm a rebel, or right. Mm-hmm. Any tattoo anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. But now flash forward to I don't know when, right? It's almost like if you're not having a tattoo, you're not fitting in.
Yeah.
But in a particular, like if you go to Japan, they won't let you in restaurants if you've got tattoos in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Right. And I know why, because the Yakuza organized crime guys is part of their life. Right. So when you see that, you're like, okay, watch out for that guy. And that's sort of like a known thing there. Right. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I digress. Freddie's a great story. Amazing. So what other sorts of stories are you catching there now? Like, let's talk about Juan, the incarcerated journalist, because he sounds amazing.
Yeah. He publishes all the time. So,
is there a mechanism for him to get paid for writing?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
He writes for the New York Times.
Wow.
He has several. I mean, if you ask him for his contact list, they're all local and nationwide.
So he is a full-time journalist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess they don't do. Once you're in, then the screening is less.
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends. In San Quentin, right. There's because it's close to a big city.
Okay.
And there's more than one university in our area. You get quite a bit of interest in that population.
Okay.
It's usually most prisons are built far away from big cities, and that's where the problems come. That's where people like us can't go in and help rehabilitate. So San Quentin is definitely creme de la creme as far as getting access. There are plenty of other prisons that, you and I can speak around about this world that do not have that opportunity. They don't know who to write. They don't
have an opportunity to get a GED, probably.
Yeah, exactly. They make them work, but not make them get an education for sure.
Right.
There's another person that comes to my mind. His name's Dennis Jefferson. He's currently incarcerated. In fact, I saw him last week as well. And he was sitting on the couch one Sunday afternoon and had 3 daughters that were under the age of 5. And he and his wife, Jasmine, get in a altercation. And he ends up taking her life. And what's beautiful about his story when he writes to us and he updates us on our website, he's named him the Red Flag Journals. And he walks us through all the things that got him to that couch in that moment and then unravels them for us. So he talks about his 3 daughters, about how they have to go visit their mother at the graveyard from a foster home. He talks about adulting. He talks about his trauma. He talks about toxic masculinity. So for me, it's been beautiful having not been touched by incarceration or trauma. It's been nice to really get into the mind of someone like him is learning and taking us on this journey.
Right.
So that I really appreciate him for coming out and saying that, right? He's got 3 daughters that I'm not sure how healthy, if at all, they exist, his relationship with them. So for him to be able to come out and, share what happened that day and what's going on with himself, it's amazing. Another thing that comes to my mind, which is new to us. So our summer interns, our college ones, that came in. They wanted to do. There's people all the time that talk about their crime to us, but I'm hesitant to really put them online because I don't want them, I don't want to feed the narrative and the media of who they are. I want people to see who they are today,
Mm.
kind of like Brandon Stanton does with Humans of New York. You can instantly fall into their story and see what they're about today. But we ended up talking to like 5 guys that call us that we're close to, and they intimately talk about their crime
Mm.
and that day and what happened
Intimately. Yes. That's the
and
key. Right.
what happened before,
Where their
keep in
brain
mind
was,
that.
where, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And after, so we've named that area raw crime, which is still kind of hard to get my arms around, because I don't like exposing that or sharing that with about someone's life. But it's really engaging. It talks, and there's a few different stories of mine that,
I think it's important though. I know
yeah,
we don't want to. We don't want to because it's not pleasant. It's not like you go home feeling good about it. You kind of have to take on some of the baggage. But I think it's hugely important that we do this.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that because I
Yeah.
wonder, I wonder how validating that is to the whole process. And like you said, it's important. It's part that
Part
can't
of the
necessarily,
healing of for
yeah,
everybody, really.
yeah.
Right. Because there's a why. These things aren't just like they're not suddenly aliens or, there's a reason. There's reasons,
Mm-hmm.
they might not make sense to you and me, to Diane and Jeff, but at that time, it's not necessarily that it made sense. It was just what happened. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of healing, the first thing that comes to my mind is another story. I've got a lot always to share, so feel free to cut me off at any time.
No, no, no.
Uh,
This is the Diane show, and it's not the Jeff show.
I hate that. I don't want to feel like I'm the one talking and not getting information. So, um, a friend of mine, Miguel Quesada, came to me one day, and he was previously incarcerated, and he was bringing a group of people inside for his group called the Men Collective. And he says, since you have access, do you mind helping me escort people in and out? So inside San Quentin, they had a day called the Day of Healing. And we ended up escorting 10 women in. And if you can imagine them standing on a platform overlooking a yard, and there's easily probably 1,500 men there dressed in blue. And each one of these women have been the victim of a very violent crime. And they each stand up and talk about being raped, about their husband being stabbed, about their daughter being killed by a drunk driver. And it was by far the most sobering day that I have had experience inside a prison. And there was not a dry eye. I mean, all of us, free blue people, were just blown away. So as we're walking out, there's this woman, her name's Martina, and she has a group called the Ahimsa Collective. And what she does is she gets victim and offenders, victims that have offenders incarcerated, and she works with them anywhere from months to years and gets them to the point where they are ready to actually sit down inside a prison with an offender and have a face-to-face dialogue. So they call them victim offender dialogues. And she said to me, she's like, would you share these stories? And instantly my knee jerk is like, oh my gosh, I carry a big torch for people incarcerated. Not being a victim of a violent crime, I was super hesitant as to who I would be retriggering. Do I have the skills to do this?
Mm.
So instantly I thought of it as a wonderful opportunity. If these, in this case, women, and we have a couple men, are they open to it? So pretty quickly I got into it, realized it wasn't something that could be written. So I've interviewed 4 different pairs, half are incarcerated, half are free people. And I interview them after they've actually sat down inside a prison with their victim and their offender. And Jeff, the most startling thing for me is I do carry a torch for people at Inside. I do want to share those voices.
Mm.
These people that have been the victims of a violent crime, whether it be their dad being killed, their daughter being killed, I do not hold a candle to what they're trying to do with people inside. They're trying to free the men that have hurt them. They go into prisons. They work actively in prison reform and reentry in order to get people out.
That's amazing.
It's startling. So I did a podcast. I didn't have any experience. I probably should have talked to you long before I ever stepped into this world.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, but so fun. So I interviewed 10 different people after those victim offender dialogues, as well as Martina, who got us started in it, and then also Jorge, who has done the art for it. So I push people to go check out the Prison Podcast. Prison Podcast. It's on our website as well as all the.
We will link to that in the
accounts.
show notes for sure. That's amazing. So the Prison Podcast is all of these like post meeting interviews, kind of like an outtake interview. Now, who do you interview? The incarcerated or the offended or both?
Both.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's probably the
Like
most
Elle
important
and
podcast.
Alan. Yeah, like Elle and Alan. So Elle's daughter Emily had just been at Starbucks with a girlfriend, walks out and is killed in the middle of the street by Alan, who was a drunk driver. And he gets out of his car and looks at Emily, who's non-responsive on the asphalt.
Yeah.
And
I can imagine that. I've actually, whenever I hear about that and I think about like me, my past, having drinks and then like thinking, yeah, I think I'm okay to drive. And then I think about that. I go, no. Right. Because that's one thing that anybody could do. Right. I mean, that is like really, it's one bad decision away from killing somebody.
or just, playing with something in your car, right? You can.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's happened to me. Right. You're on your phone or you swat a fly and, right. Yeah. True.
Yeah. And what's beautiful about Elle is she made sure he was convicted. So did what she had to do to make sure that he was behind bars. And she realized when he's in prison, and it was always in the back of her head, that alcoholism was in her family. And she realized that, shoot, I really want to know what's going on with Alan. And that's when she really started on her path of getting to know him, getting to know the process of what has actually happened with him. And it's going to bring me to tears to say this, but they had been conversing a little bit. And they go in that first day. She's escorted into prison. Imagine Alan at a wooden table. He's got guards near him, and his hands are actually shackled underneath the table. And I mean, she looks at this man who's, taken her 21-year-old daughter's life. And she turns to him. They haven't spoken a word to each other yet. She looks at him and says, I have a hug for you.
Wow.
Whoa, that woman, she developmentally is very far on that train, right?
Yes. Right.
So it's
amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
He goes into prisons now and gives talks, and she's just an absolutely beautiful soul. And as a visitor or someone going into prison, they, already social distance. You're not supposed to touch them or be near them. And they're very, very respectful of that. And she always breaks those rules and say, I have a hug for you. And she has so many men that, come up to her and admire her for where she is. So yeah, those victim offender dialogues are talk about healing. Holy crap. That hits it on the head.
So Alan probably cannot forgive himself, right?
No. Well, that's the hardest part. Fancy you should say that. I mean, you can forgive other people the act, but to actually look inside yourself and forgive, that's
I mean, I don't know if I could. I don't think I would get over that.
But you can actually listen to him, and he
how do I deal with that? And so I would have to compartmentalize if I wanted to keep going. Yeah.
And then I need to check back in with Alan and Elle now, but he was recently released. So I met him in San Quentin.
Depending on the state, you don't really stay in prison very long in certain scenarios for DUI or manslaughter and those kinds of things.
Yeah, murderers get out long before the three strikers. Like my friend James, who stole $30 from Wendy's fast food. He was in for 25 years because he had 3 offenses. Whereas if you go in for murder over and don't have 3 offenses, you're in 7, 9, 10 years. But it's also indicative. The US, we tend to incarcerate for long periods of time because we don't have gun laws. Whereas, you're anywhere in the UK or in Australia, New Zealand, their sentences, their average sentence there in like Norway, those places are 7 years.
Mm.
Most of the men, I think, in San Quentin are there for 25 minimum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. But I turned to Alan, back to Emily, Emily's not here, but Elle and Alan. And I did say to her, I said, Emily, how are you feeling? Or Elle, Elle, how are you feeling about Alan getting out? He will walk out and hug his family,
Mm.
right? She's never getting Emily back. But she's a forgiving woman, that Elle. So I do need to check in with them and see how both of them are doing.
Right. Right. Because the movie narrative is we all talk about like forgiveness and we say we're Christian, but we're not very good at it effectively. Right. Like we're not very good at it. Like, especially forgiving ourselves, but definitely people that deserve to not be forgiven. We feel like this sort of like, I don't know what you call it, but like righteous indignation, right? Like, no, you did it. You're guilty. I'm not forgiving you. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not doing yourself a service, really.
I know. That takes a level of maturity that
Right.
I shouldn't say maturity because you feel like you have a choice with your maturity, but you really have to be ready, right? You got to be open. And that, if you've got trauma and other things in your life, it's not always easy to get there.
Right. Right. Well, you probably, yeah. I think we would need lessons. Like there's folks that have been on this podcast, like how to forgive, right? It's not really a thing you learn how to do. Right. If people don't talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
The easy stuff, sure. Oh yeah, okay, whatever, $5, right? Or whatever, right? Like minor offenses, we have no problem forgiving,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
the big rocks, right? Like, not forget it. We just don't have the tool set, I think.
Yeah.
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 The other thing that I was going to say, and I want to get your take on this, but this is kind of a sensitive thing. So if I screw up, I apologize to begin with.
Okay.
But, there's all of these shootings, right, going on, like mass shootings.
Mm.
And when I say, like, when do we ever get to talk to these shooters? Like, never. Because usually they get shot or they shoot themselves, right?
Mm.
And until we start not shooting them, A, and maybe get them to not shoot themselves, B, then we need to talk to them and say, we need a narrative that we can put in a database to figure out what's going on to make these people do this. Mm-hmm. There's no other way out.
Well, I look at that whole net as systemic.
Yeah,
right.
it is.
We were just talking about this last night at my book club. It would be nice if there was some kind of screening, or not a screening, but something that's already built in when we send our children to school. So now if your child has a learning difficulty, you have what we call an IEP, an individual educational plan. I think
I spent enough time in the education system to know what that is, and it's not great.
But it's a gift to many, right? You're
Yes.
able to actually get diagnosed and find a way out and given many accommodations so you can succeed and actually get through. So I think if all of us had that, or we look at all these people that we're housing in prisons, mass shooters, maybe it might crack that door open for how we might be able to stop or see these problems ahead of time. Get them on medication, get people more aware.
Right.
We need a safety net, people in our community. That's, kind of also our reason for incarceration. We've got this broken community, right, of people that can actually see them before they actually get there. There's more eyes on them.
Ask the
Not
other
to mention
kids,
that,
maybe.
Say that again?
Ask the other kids, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And, have other people in the community that we have a resource or a place to go, which is also what I wish we had. Maybe not, we don't call them mental institutes, but maybe some kind of wellness center where, if you are arrested or you see somebody on the fringe doing things they're not supposed to be doing, there is a place for them to go. people for them to talk to, medication available, whatever it is,
Right.
humans there that can help them and grow and mature out of those places.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the high school kid. I think if you wait until you start doing something in high school, you're probably too late. So there should be like, yes, I agree. Some sort of like school-based monitoring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably
And it would help
a piece of the
families,
puzzle.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got these broken families that can't. I mean, you look at the reasons that we
Yeah.
have incarceration, which are the same as our everyday problems in the US or anywhere around the world. We've got a lack of education, we've got poverty, we've got drug addiction,
Right.
we've got some kind of, mental illness, learning differences, neurodivergence, and then broken families. Those things would help, not mandatory, but at least help us get an eye and make our communities safer prior to letting them act on that trauma later on, committing an offense, locking them up and kind of letting them rot and then letting them out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. No, I get it. No, please rant because you're saying things that I'm saying in my head all the time. Right. So thanks. I'm on the same page as Diane. Right. I mean, like when I was in high school, you and I were in high school at the same time, right? Like even then, I don't know. I think our generation had a little bit like a better sort of like laissez-faire kind of upbringing. At least I did, right? And less helicopter-y parenting and more just like, get out of here. We're busy, right? And then, be home by dinner, right? And we're going through the same kind of crap. And like we're getting bullied, right? We're getting pushed around, right? But we're meant to, we had to just deal with that shit. I mean, you could go home and say, this guy picked on me. And I got some really good advice from my dad. Because when I asked him, I think I was still like in 4th grade or 5th grade. I said, what do I do when a bully hits me? He says, well, you're small, but you can run. So just run. You're not that far from home and you got a big brother. So I bet you can run faster than all those bullies. And he was right. But it didn't necessarily solve my problem.
Yeah.
Right? They're still coming at you, right? The non-advice that, like, I don't know where I saw it. It might have been on TV or something. But when I got to middle school and the same 2 bullies started picking on me, they showed up at 6th grade again. And, hey, I guess we're doing this again. And we're going to have the punch contest. And I'm always losing, right? But I started punching back. And as soon as you did that, it stopped, right? Yeah. I don't think that's happening now, right? Yeah. Like people, like kids getting to have to learn that, there's things in the animal kingdom that you've got to figure out on your own, Yeah. And we don't have those opportunities as kids anymore. And you as a teacher probably get that. Yeah. That's probably something to do with what's going on after high school.
Yeah, I agree.
Like when I was, I remember when I joined the Air Force, and I think I was like after my first leaves, right? And I'm still like 18 years old. And there was this song, I can't remember who it was, but it was like 18 and life to go. And it was like this anthem of what the hell do we do after we graduate? It's like life sort of like dropped you off a cliff. Now I was in the Air Force, right? But at that time, I didn't want to be in the Air Force. I didn't really like it, but I didn't see an alternative. You know what I'm saying? I was like, ugh. I didn't really want to go to college, and I didn't really want to be in the Air Force, but I just had to figure that shit out. Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it was, what it was like for you growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the cliff is a little bit steeper now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on a positive flip side of that, like our kids they know wellness. The kids that we see now didn't grow up with, necessarily Clinton's 3 strikes you're out, right? They're very sensitive with the words they use. Are they a he, a she, a they, the them?
Yeah.
You and I weren't raised with that sensitivity.
Right.
So their hearts and minds are much more open to the systematic problems that we have.
Okay. That's good news.
Yeah, so I feel like they are a little more well equipped. They also, should they choose to look at the tools that they have, they do have the internet now, right? They're able to actually
Yes.
Google and be a little more informed, whereas, you and I sometimes had to go get that microfiche out of the library to find some article that may or may not have ever been written.
True. Like what I've noticed is like if a kid wants to apply themselves now, like if they get interested in something, whatever that something is, and they want to move towards it, the opportunities to just blow anybody out of the water are there, right? Especially if they've got a supportive group, around them, like seeing those kids on The Voice singing, right? I'm like, oh my God, this kid's 14 years old. I'm never going to sing that well. And there's a lot of them, so like, yes, kids have like this double-edged sword. It's like, I don't know, like if things are going to go like really wrong, they can go really wrong. And if they're going to go really right, they can go really right. It's like the internet is like an amplifier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Diane, we could talk forever, but this has been an hour.
Oh, that's so fast. It's so nice chatting with you.
You should come back. We should get more stories.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I know there's a
to
lot.
share.
Yeah. And then they'll all be like, you almost made me cry on a couple of occasions. So like, you're doing great work. Thank you. We need more Dianes out there.
Thank you. And more Jeffs who's open to hearing it, right? And putting a tenderness into that part of the world. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Come back whenever you want. I usually say 6 months to a year, but I know you've got plenty of stories. So whenever you've got time, feel free, reach out. Every other week. Let's do it. More stories are good. Yes. Yeah, that's great. So people can find you at Humans of San Quentin. .org. Anything else you want folks to know or do?
.com. Yes, what I would.
.com. Okay.
.com. We own both.
Good for you.
Yeah, they can go to all of our social media channels. We're on YouTube, Instagram, all the good stuff, Facebook. But I really want people to talk to each other, right? If you're listening to this, talk. I also really want to share the world, this word and this work with the outside world. So if you have a company or somewhere that you want us to come talk, we will. I prefer to never get up on stage unless I have somebody previously incarcerated with me. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, would love to have more speaking engagements. And
if you could do that on a podcast, that would be cool.
Yeah.
If you could bring like one of your storytellers or artists or musicians or anybody, I don't really care. Somebody either incarcerated, that would probably be difficult, but neat. But if it could be like formerly incarcerated, now thriving and or surviving, who cares, whatever, that would be a really good show.
Yeah. Yes, I have those. I have those by the boatload.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been, I feel like my heart has grown 2 sizes or maybe 10 sizes. Feel a little bit like the Grinch on Christmas. We did good work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it so much for your interest.
Thank you. You have a good one.
You too.
Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.